What was supposed to be the battle of the Reeves films, Keanu Reeves was meant to star in both the fourth chapter of John Wick and the fourth chapter of The Matrix. Two different studios, head to head. It was supposed to release the exact same weekend to show which Keanu Reeves franchise sort of beats the other, I would say. Is it old school or is it new school Keanu that's better? Now, because of the pandemic, that whole spiel was kind of dropped. They are still working on John Wick 4, but we got The Matrix Resurrections released back in December. I got to watch it in theaters. It's been long enough that I'm pretty sure enough people have written about it, spoken about it, have seen it, and understand how underwhelming it probably was. Now, it upsets me to say that about this because I really did feel like this was something that was not sought after, but was definitely well received when we heard that it was coming. Like, I'm not going to say that The Matrix needed another film, but bringing us back there wasn't a bad idea, especially with how hot Keanu Reeves is right now with the whole John Wick series, and almost everything he touches turns to liquid gold. Unfortunately, not the case with this film, because when you look at it, like, I think it was almost like a $200 million budget, and it barely did like $150 million in the box office. That's bad. Like, that's really bad for not even just a Keanu Reeves movie or an opening movie. It just The Matrix in itself. I think it's probably the lowest grossing of all the Matrix films, which I think should lend its ear to how much it was a disappointment to us as the fans. Now, I'm not going to say that I was completely disappointed. I did enjoy it. You know, I'm not going to say that I regretted going to the theater for it, but I will say that it definitely did not deserve as much hype as it got. And of course, it's going to get the amount of hype that we anticipated because it's literally almost 15 years since the last one came out. And it's, you know, it's Keanu Reeves, the return of him to where he kind of got his, I don't want to say big break, but literally where, like, his career blew up. You know, like, everybody knew who he was beforehand, but he was doing, you know, he was the doofy dude on Bill and Ted, and then he had a couple of serious roles with, like, Speed and the Patrick Swayze movie he was in, Point Break, I think it was called. So yeah, he had his little things here and there, but like for as big as The Matrix was, and as vast of the amount of people that still like talk about it to this day, and all of the conversations it's brought up. And let's just also take note that it's not even both the Wachowski sisters involved. It's only one. Only Lana has been involved in the creation of this film. And for the first three films, it's both of them. You know, both of them were part of the filmmaking process. They were both writers, they were both directors, and they created this universe and this story. Lana's the only one that came back for this film. The other Wachowski sister, I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but it's usually always said, you know, the Wachowskis. Now it's just Lana Wachowski. So it's just her that's doing Lily. Lily's the other sister name. Lily Wachowski, I believe it is. It's just the one sister that's doing it now. So I believe that also takes away from a little bit of it, because you could actually see where certain things might have hit or miss, where it wasn't the collaboration. It wasn't two people talking about these characters that the two of them created together. It was only one kind of trying to decide what the visuals, what the driving point was for the film. Now, I'm not going to deny that it's kind of, you know, its foundation, its general concept isn't bad. The idea that, you know, Neo has been resurged into the Matrix, and he's kind of been revamped and reprogrammed to believe that he wasn't the one and all that stuff. and he has no connection to Trinity, and he just so happens to work for a gaming company, and the gaming company has created the game that is the Matrix, and it's just kind of this play on breaking the fourth wall within the three walls, and then breaking a fifth wall. It's very it's fun how they did it. It's just the execution of it isn't done all that well. I think probably a lot of it might be because of the recasting. I know it's gotten a lot of heat for some of the recasting. I mean, I'm not going to say that any of the people who are cast are any of the people that I feel were bad in the film. I think they did great in the roles that they picked up on, like the replacement of Morpheus with Abdul Mateen. I can't remember his full name, but the actor who was in the recent Candyman reboot, he's been great in almost everything he does. So him as, young Lawrence Fishburne, playing off of Morpheus, I don't mind that. But the idea of that Morpheus is, dead, and it's kind of more of he's a program that Neo programmed, and it's just it's very, very strange the turn of what they decided to do with some of these characters, and even just to recast them and not have a lot of these original actors show up as just cameos. You know what I'm saying? Like, even Jada Pinkett Smith came back and played her character as an older version, the many years after the end of the third film, and that made perfect sense. It's probably one of the few things that make the most sense in the film, and it's the one moment where you go, oh, finally, somebody I'm supposed to recognize. Otherwise, there's no Lawrence Fishburne, there's no Hugo Weaving, it's just Hugo Weaving's voice and clips from the other films. They don't even bring him in to do any sort of a visual change to his face or anything. And then it's this other actor, I don't even know the guy's name, who's meant to be like, again, the reprogramming and reincarnation of Agent Smith, but it's essentially the same personality. And then throughout the film, he kind of wakes up and it's like, oh yeah, me and Neo, we had this thing. It's very, very different, the decisions they took with the liberties of needing to do the recasting and how they wanted to re-portray some of these characters. I'm not going to say it all failed. I'm going to say some of it worked. It's just a matter of the execution of a lot of it. Like, for example, the new idea of who the general runner of the Matrix is, how it was the same sort of programmer, and then the fact that Neo did this completely different thing from what he took a completely different path. He made all different decisions based on what his predecessors had done, so it really changed how the Matrix needed to be worked. So they took out the Merovingian, and they put in the Analyst, who was played by Neil Patrick Harris, and that, I think, is a pretty cool idea, to now have it be like, instead of just somebody on the outside looking into the Matrix, somebody who's actually in the Matrix, working around it and kind of using the dynamics of what Trinity and Neo did to, I guess, counterbalance the Matrix experience in a way. Now, all of that reprogramming and stuff, that all makes a lot of sense. It's just execution. Like, the execution isn't like great at all. Like, it seems like it was on a good roll for a little bit, and then it just kind of takes a turn. Like, I'm going to tell you this. When you see the trilogy, you understand what you're watching, and the first one sets a certain precedent. The first Matrix film set a precedent that it was very much equal parts story, equal parts action. The action in this film is pretty much not there. And I think that's what kind of drives people away a lot, is that we went into this thinking that maybe this is a fourth film, but maybe it's also a return to what made a lot of the original Matrixes so good, was that balance of action and story. Like, yes, there was a lot of story, but the story was presented in a very fluent manner. Now it just seems to be all this story jumbled up to try to make sense, and then maybe you get some action. Like, Neo really only has like one real fight scene. Everything else is a motorcycle chase, a couple of small fights with like Morpheus and all of the other people who are kind of on Neo's team in a way, and there's just very few things that are they're trying to wrap around in this concept that they had, the story that they're trying to portray. It's just jumbled, like nothing seems paced appropriately, and then the action is just boring. It's not what you were hoping for when it came to a Matrix film. It's like we all held the Matrix to a very high standard when it came to action, because it revolutionized a lot of action. A lot of the stuff they did was kind of the first of its kind, and it was made fun of and parodied for years. Still to this day, people make fun of a lot of the stuff from that film, because anything that's good is worth parodying. But now we have a film that doesn't even seem like it's worth parroting, because it's just not as good. It doesn't live up to what the rest gave to us. And I feel like that's definitely something to the detriment of why this probably got so many mixed reviews and why it failed in the box office, because people kept hearing these things, and it's like there's more action in the like 20-minute game that you got to play that was accessible to like PlayStation and Xbox owners. There was the Matrix experience to kind of show you what the Unreal Engine 5 was capable of doing when it comes to the progress that video games are making. That had more action in it than the majority of the film, ratio-wise. Like, for a 20-minute game thing that was just storyline, minimal explanation, and then action, out of 10 minutes, you're literally fighting for 5 or 6 of them, at least. And that's a good ratio. When it comes to this 2-hour film, you're talking the action is very minimal. And you're talking about a series that, yes, it drives off of the story, but the story that was being told across many films. And across those many films, we got the story with an equal amount of action that fit the narrative. It made sense, and it made us like want to see more of that action. You know, there's a balance between it. And I just feel like this was missing that balance. It's missing that cohesiveness. And it's very upsetting when you think about how anticipated this film was to a lot of us fans. To me, in general, I was looking to go to both this and the John Wick film in that same weekend and see who won. And I'm going to tell you the truth, it's a no contest. I guarantee you John Wick 4 is going to do way better than this film did. And it's upsetting to me that I'm talking badly about this film that's part of a very beloved franchise. Not even just to me as a movie buff, but to the majority of movie fans out there. Even if you're not the biggest movie fan, you know The Matrix. Like, you know that was a film that kind of launched Keanu Reeves and gave us what is some of the best action of that generation. You know, 2001, 2003, the years that these films came out, action like that wasn't 100% possible. It was very much ahead of its time. It was very much showing us what the progress and what the next 20 years of film would be giving us. And maybe it's just that we're so shallowed out. Like, it's just, we're so much that we already have so much of it. Like, it's already everywhere. And the fact that it's already everywhere, maybe it's lost that little niche that it had of being so unique, because it's no longer unique. It's everywhere, literally. Like, the way the action's done for these films is almost in every action film that we've seen to date. So maybe that's a crutch to it. Maybe that's an issue that it has, where it tries to be something it's not anymore. Maybe the fourth film should have came out in 2010, and maybe then it would have been a big deal. But now you're talking about the fourth film of a 4-film run. The other 3 came out 15 years ago, and we have 15 years of progress, and this doesn't look like it's progress that much. This looks like it's at a good point, but it's doing everything like what everybody else is doing. It's not doing anything for us that's kind of making it seem like it's being pushed forward in any way. You know, I'm not saying that there needed to be more hand-to-hand combat, but you needed more of something. Like, I don't want to watch a 20-minute chase all the time, and maybe that's just me. Maybe there are people out there that loved watching the entire motorcycle scene where he's driving through the city and people are falling out of windows and stuff. But then again, we're also meant to believe that none of them are real. They're all programmed. They're all NPCs, non-playable characters, for those who don't know what that is and aren't video game savvy. But that's what it is for me. It's that I expected more, and I just didn't feel like it delivered. You know, it's a lot of hand waving. You know what I'm saying? And that's not what I wanted from this film. And again, I'm calling it now. I guarantee you, John Wick is gonna totally blow this out of the water and destroy it in the box office. And I'm definitely going to see that, and I'm gonna talk about that one too. And maybe I'll even do a comparison thing about it. But I'm gonna tell you right now, if it came to a series that I would stick with, I hope Keanu sticks with John Wick, and maybe I don't know if they have any plans for more Matrix films. I'm gonna say that I hope it does. Um, Maybe something that might redeem it. I don't know, but as of right now, I don't think it can be redeemed. I don't know, and it's sad to me to think that this is the note that it's going to be left on for such a tremendous series. For this to be the last entry, that would kind of suck.